Welcome to Greater Good Radio Hawaii, where leaders inspire leaders. Greater Good Radio Hawaii is dedicated to social entrepreneurship. I'm your host, Evan Leong, and with me is my co-host, Carey Leong.
Thank you, Evan. Today's guest is David Carey, President and CEO of Outrigger Enterprises, Inc., the largest full-service lodging and hospitality company in Hawaii. David was recently honored as PBN Business Leader of the Year for 2006. Please welcome to Greater Good Radio, David Carey. Welcome to our show, David.
Thank you.
So, President of Outrigger Enterprises, could you tell us a little bit more about what your average day would be like?
My typical average day is I wake up in the morning, get the usual morning things, feed the dogs. Sometimes I take my youngest daughter to school. We'll stop at Starbucks and then into the office if I don't have a breakfast meeting. Although it used to be in the business you'd have your mornings to yourself, but now probably 2 days or 3 days a week there's a breakfast meeting on this, that, or the other subject. Off to the office, whole string of meetings interspersed with a little time on the email, a lunch or two. After lunch, a whole string of meetings again, sometimes internal, sometimes external. And if I have a good day, I sneak away and hit a few practice balls and walk a few holes before dinner, go home and have dinner, and then catch up on the rest of the emails while I was out fooling around on the golf course.
I heard a lunch or two. Two lunches sometimes?
Oh, I'm sorry, I just said after lunch. No, one lunch.
Oh, okay. Just
one lunch. Yeah,
It sounds like a really fun day for you.
Well, I mean, hopefully everybody finds a job that you do, that you get paid for, that you have a lot of fun at. And I do. I'm very fortunate. I get to do stuff that's really interesting and makes a difference, and I enjoy, and it's easy to get up in the morning.
Can you explain what Outrigger Enterprise is, what it does, and why it's important in this community?
Outrigger Enterprises, Inc. Really had its roots in just owning and developing hotels. Today we own, manage, develop hotels and retail in Hawaii and throughout the Pacific.
How many?
There are roughly 50-some-odd hotels and condominiums and resorts in our system and about 11,000 rooms located in Hawaii, Guam, Fiji, Tahiti, Australia, and New Zealand.
And when you first came on board, how big was that Outrigger? Was it just focused on Hawaii, and then you helped to expand it internationally?
My very first job out of college I was at the front desk of the then Outrigger East Hotel, and there were 4 Outriggers, and there were a few non-branded hotels in Waikiki, and I think there were probably maybe 12 or 13 hotels in the system. I then went off to graduate school, got a law degree and an engineering degree, and practiced law for a while. When I came back, there were 15 hotels. And then today, we've got over 50 hotels and condos in our system, and we're all over the place. And by the way, when I first started, they were all within walking distance.
How did you get involved with the company?
Well, I was going to college, and I met this girl from Hawaii. And we were dating, and she says, gee, why don't you come on over to visit to Hawaii? And I said, sure, that sounds like a great idea. And I came over to visit before my senior year, and I love the place. We were sitting out on the seawall at night, moon about 35 degrees over the water, waves breaking in, wind blowing through the coconut trees. It's about 75 degrees, and I said, gee, is it like this all the time? I was from Denver. And they looked at me like, well, yeah, of course. What do you expect? It's like this all the time. So I actually asked her dad, and we were just dating at the time, gee, I'm graduating from school. Is there any chance I could come back and get a job after college and, just come in Hawaii and hang for a while and get a job? So I actually got a job at the hotel. I had no idea about the family business at the time. We weren't married at the time. And started working entry level at the hotel. So that's how I got here, and that's how I got into the hotel business.
And you married this person?
And then we got married a couple of years later. Actually, she went back to school, and I stayed here to work. And then I went back to graduate school, and we finished up graduate school about the same time.
Does she work in the business also?
She worked for about 2 years in the business, and then when we started having kids, she went home and has been stay-at-home mom. Although these days, she's also assistant coach at the University of Hawaii women's soccer team. And she plays. One of her teams was a National 40 title, and she plays racquetball, so she's still pretty active.
And for you, too, I heard that you had a golf scholarship to college.
Well, yeah, that's a little bit of I was offered scholarships in places, and I didn't take it. I ultimately went to a school where I wasn't offered a scholarship. I started to play for the team, and I went to my academic advisor and said, I want to be a math science engineering major, and oh, by the way, I'm going to be on the golf team. And he looks at me and he says, son, you have to make a choice. If you're going to play on the golf team, you need to take courses where you don't have to go to class on Thursday and Friday. if you're going to do a math science engineering major, you're not going to succeed. So I decided not to play golf, and I stopped. I played 3 or 4 rounds with the team, stopped playing, and I didn't play for almost 5 years after. But then I did play soccer, so I played on the varsity soccer team by the time I was a junior and senior, so I got a little running around and not so much travel.
How did you change your interests from electrical engineering into law and then, working at the hotel?
Well, I first worked at the hotels. Electrical engineering, I was always fascinated with things electronic, how they worked. I actually would have been a computer science major if they had one at the time, but if you can believe it, Stanford University in 1974 or 5 did not have a computer science major, so I finished with electrical engineering. I started working for the hotels, and then I sort of got interested in things legal and a business degree because of what I'd seen in sort of my work in the hotels, and so that's what fueled graduate school.
Thanks for tuning in. Stay tuned for more on Greater Good Radio.